Many believe that the most important catalyst for Tesla stock is the progress of full self-driving version 12. We've been hearing very good news over the last several weeks as beta testers continue to show one edge case after another that is now being handled well by FSD as compared to FSD version 12. So today we get to hear directly from Hans Nelson as he was given a chance to experience FSD 12 himself. And there are definitely still some areas needed for improvement. So let's break this down. Welcome, Hans. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Herbert. Yeah, I'm really excited about FSD version 12. And it is obviously a huge part of the bull thesis for what Tesla's valuation is going to be over the next 10 years. And I was very, very excited to watch James Dauma's drive with Bradford Ferguson. Obviously, Brad right now is, the mastermind behind Rebellionaire. And he was able to get a hold of this Tesla Model 3 that has version 12, and he's been taking this all around the country road trip. He started in, I believe, Sacramento, California. He then drove here to Texas. Then he went up to New York, and then he's going across Michigan right now. Wow. So if anyone is not currently just tracking the progress of their road trip, I would highly recommend, go follow Rebellionaire on X. They're continuing to just drop great content. We actually did record my drive. I don't know if it is one of the ones that he will end up uploading to X or not. It may be. If not, then I'll probably end up uploading that on my channel as well, just so that people can get a sense for what my experience was personally. But anyways, one of the drives that he did with James was an incredible drive where James, obviously, not only does he understand full self-driving very, very deeply, he tests it every day, and he has a Model S, and he understands how the system is built from a software perspective, and then he has the experience of driving it in specific neighborhoods. And so as they were going along, he was able to point out, okay, this is how version 11 handles this exact scenario every time, and this is what FSD 12, and it's much, much different than what FSD version 11 does. And by different, in almost every case, it was better. And so that is very encouraging because we really want to see the system getting better. And time after time, when we watch these beta testers experience the system, the commentary is it solves all kinds of things that version 11 struggled with. So the functionality is getting much wider, much broader. It can do many more things well. So that's great. It's also much smoother and more human-like. And then there are some issues. And so me, as someone who had not experienced the system, I hear that, and my feeling about what that's going to feel like when I experience it is that it's going to be a largely positive feeling to experience the system because it's better in so many ways. But then when Bradford got to Texas and he took Farzad around for a drive, they were noticing, that exact same set of comments, that it's better in this way, it's better in that way, it can handle this intersection much better than FSD v11 would handle it. It's smoother, it's more confident, it accelerates in a way that inspires confidence, that it actually knows what it's doing. But then at the very end of the first segment of their drive, they experienced a couple of interventions, and I think we have a clip of that, and so I'll put that up on the screen here for the viewers, and we'll experience this together, and then we'll move on to my experience.
God, I'm so excited to see. Okay, so we have a parking spot here on the right. Is it gonna? No.
I don't know if it's doing parallel parking yet.
Okay.
On the V12.
So now it's tried that block. Now it's tried this block. We don't know if it's on purpose or by accident, but it tried. Oh, we got a car coming. Oh,
I'm gonna disengage.
Yeah. So that was not good behavior. Yeah. Now we're way too far forward.
I re-engaged.
Yeah. That was not good. So there was a car coming on the left, and it tried to enter the intersection. And it really shouldn't have done that. That was not good. Okay, so there's one for the Tesla team to fix.
Yeah, the biggest problem we see with V12 is sometimes it tries to go when it shouldn't.
A little too aggressive almost, right? Okay,
Yeah.
so here we got a left turn. We got pedestrians on the left. Nope.
And let's see how we're set up.
It was pedestrians. Very good. Okay.
We're set to average. We're not set to assertive.
Okay. So now we're going around one more time on the left side.
I think we're going to do a figure 8.
Yeah, it does seem like, just from that example there, it does seem like on some occasions it's a little too aggressive, right? It's almost like it's traded a little bit of like, and I'm not saying that would have ended as a crash, but it almost feels like we've gained a ton of comfort, but the same level of confidence in the safety that version 11 has, I like that situation would have never happened with version 11. What would have happened, from my experience, what would have happened is like it would have just waited at the intersection forever, right? Whereas this version is trying to get into the intersection, but then it was a little too eager to get into the intersection because of that car.
So there's a place here called All Things New.
Yeah.
I think it finally gave up.
Let me.
It's moving.
Okay.
Let's see here. So we got traffic on the left and traffic on the right. Oh. Yeah. So another one there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the way it's entering these intersections is not very safe.
Wow. Okay. So just to put this in perspective, right? They've been driving around for a long time. Not only him, but he's done it with James and a bunch of other people. All, occasionally something like this will happen. But this one, 2 in a row in less than 2 minutes. Pretty serious. That was a very serious one. So what's happening, Hans?
Yeah, and I am not 100% sure, but I actually think it's the exact same intersection. I think he's approaching it, from different ways. And it looks like potentially that maybe there's some reduced visibility, and it just, because like they've said, they've dialed up the confidence on the system. It acts and drives much more smoothly and much more comfortably as a human. It drives much more like a human and not like someone who's very timid. I think that's great as long as it knows when it can be confident and when not to be. And it seems like it is confident in scenarios where it actually needs to be a little bit more consistent and more safe. And so that's, that is somewhat of a concern. And so then when I actually got to ride in the vehicle with Bradford, we actually had a great drive. There were no safety critical interventions. There was one time where it made me as a passenger nervous, but it was more so because I didn't know what the vehicle was going to do, not because it was necessarily doing anything that was unsafe. But I did have that feeling for the first time of actually being in the car as it's performing a maneuver that is somewhat, uncomfortable as a passenger. And it just made me realize that this continues to be a very, very hard problem. And, Farzad put it very well. There's a reason that this system right now, that version 12 is only in the hands of a few hundred customers. And that's because that confidence level that it has does come at the risk. And Omar has said this as well. We keep hearing this, that there are some safety issues that need to be figured out. But the way that it felt to me to experience that in the vehicle wasn't what I expected. It was kind of a mismatch between what I understood to be true. Like, I understood that there were some safety issues that needed to be figured out. And I understood rationally and from a theoretical standpoint that this is still going to take us, a year or more potentially for version 12 to get to the point where it's driving very, very confidently and very, very safely, and it's ready for everyone in North America to use it. Even though I know that that's going to take some time, the feeling part of me was like, oh, I'm going to get to experience version 12. It's going to feel incredible and amazing. And that feeling of how incredible and amazing it drives is very quickly overshadowed by that twinge of, wow, I'm actually kind of nervous that it might do something dangerous. And so it takes that enthusiasm and excitement it takes the edge right off of it, which is, I mean, that is the correct way to think about and approach using version 12 right now at this point in time in its development. And so it's just kind of bringing my expectations as an outside observer who had not driven the system, um, taking the enthusiasm kind of out of that bubble on how it's going to feel, and just bringing them back down to earth, and helping the feeling part of me really be in line with the rational part of me that understands that it's going to take time.
Yeah, no, that's very understandable. Obviously, one safety critical thing, and automatically that overshadows anything else, right? And so, but the way that the system is being trained, like normally you would think,
Mhm.
okay, first of all, this car should never hit anything, should never do anything. That's what we're going to train it on first, and then we'll let it do all these other things. But that's not the way this works. This is the neural net's teaching itself, and it's feeding all these videos, and it's going to just learn everything at once. And so there's going to be some of these critical things that doesn't get solved right away. That part, I think, is one thing to understand. So that's okay. So there's that's happening. That's why they haven't rolled this out to fully. But then you made a statement that you said that it might be a year or 2 years. I think that could be false. I mean,
It could be.
clearly there's like, there's hopium, and there's kind of like, people that are, you can be hopium. It's just, it's going to happen in a month. And then there's going to be people that say, it'll never happen for 5 years. And so you just kind of threw out the 1 or 2 years. But what's different about what's happening every single month right now is they're growing their data centers, and Elon has said that he believes by the end of this year, they will not be compute constrained anymore for FSD. So when you're not compute constrained anymore, and you can throw even more videos, and they're already showing that by throwing at videos of good drivers, that it will be able to solve, like they can take it off and go, okay, now it can do that better, not that better. Remember that one time when Ashok and Elon were driving, and then which
I did experience personally. Like, it actually, so the system parked in parking lots. It parked in front of, like, it did all sorts of taxi-like things that I don't think are explicitly part of the code. It's just that this is normally where a human would go in this scenario. And so it goes there, whether that's pulling over to the side of the road, or pulling into a parking spot and parking in a parking lot, or driving up to the front of a store to let somebody out. Like, all of these sorts of things it just magically is doing. And there's no line of code somewhere that someone said, hey, I think in this scenario, the system should do that. And that is really cool to see, that there are so many of those types of things that just are now part of what the system is capable of. But the thing that they're working on at this point in time is they have to discover, okay, we've got a whole list of new capabilities, but because this is a new architecture, we're also going to have a bunch of new safety critical vulnerabilities. And they don't know what are all the safety critical vulnerabilities going to be. And so really part of it for me is just appreciating and elevating the service that right now the FSD beta testers who have V12 are doing for the rest of the community, is that there is some amount of, like, it takes extra care in understanding of the system to be a high quality version 12 beta tester at this point in time, to be able to help Tesla find all of those safety critical vulnerabilities right now. And the more of those that they find, the more of them they can fix and patch, and they can use this new compute that they're bringing online to feed the system videos of those specific types of scenarios so that it can improve. And so one of the things that we'll see is to track progress. So you talked about, it could be faster than a year. Yes, it could be faster than a year. So what we would need to see in order to kind of get an idea of how fast it is going to be or not going to be is, how fast did they actually roll it out across the whole country? Because I know that Tesla Scope has said that they saw signs of it actually being outside of California. But yeah, so
only 2 states. Yeah.
It's only 2 states. And it's a very, very few number of cars. And so we just need to really watch
Yeah.
closely, like what is the size of the rollout for the next one? Because if they roll out 12.2.2 or 3 or whatever they end up calling the next one, and it's still only for those same
Mhm.
ones who
Yeah.
had 12.2.1, well, that tells us that they're not very confident in the safety of the system yet, and they still need to, like, they're still trying to look for, because what that's telling you when the group is that small is that their error rate is very high. They don't need very many miles to find errors when you only need 200 beta testers. When you need 1,000 beta testers or 10,000 beta testers or 100,000, I think we have 400,000 total people in the beta program. If you can roll it out to that number of people and you're needing that size of a fleet to be using the system in order to find your vulnerabilities, then that means you've driven the number of vulnerabilities to a very small number. If you only need 200, that means you've got lots of areas where you have low hanging fruit for improvement.
Well, tell me if this is true, this thinking that came to my mind when I heard Farzad sort of explain a little bit better, right? So it was very, very cautious. Version 11 is very, very cautious. In fact, it would wait too long before it wants to move, right? It'll just sit there forever until it finally finds a spot. This one's much more aggressive. He called it too eager. It was a little too eager, and it got caught in kind of a terrible scenario, right? And so what I think they need to do is give it more data, more videos of defensive driving. So in defensive driving, for example, like just a few days ago, I'm driving, I'm entering in the freeway, and then I punched it. I went fast, and my wife goes, "What are you doing?" And that's because there was a car coming, right? And I'm entering into the freeway, and there's a car coming, and I'm like, I'm going to punch it because it's pretty safe, right? It's like one single lane for me, and I'm going to get faster, so it's very clear that this guy's not. We're not going to meet slowly, right? That's defensive driving. And then, of course, there's other times where you kind of like going, okay, what's the probability that that car might do something? I'm going to just hold back, right? The whole idea of as soon as the light changes, you don't go move forward. You might want to wait till 2 or 3 seconds before you move because there could be cars that are going to try to beat the light, right? So they need to feed it more videos of people who are very good defensive drivers. In this scenario that happened, it'll know when not to try something. But right now, it seems that it doesn't know something. Do you think that there's some truth to what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one of the challenges that they're going to be facing as far, they have to figure out how to pick the right video clips to add to the training set. Because right now they have, probably 99% of all video data that's generated by Teslas in general is thrown away and not used. And so they have to find, what are the right ones to add to the training set. And we know that there is some metric in there that they're using to try and pick the best driver or the best videos that are examples of good drivers handling a situation. And so, ho- are they grading defensive drivers? I don't know that specifically, but I think basically what's going to happen is that they will surface a scenario where, okay, the system needs to make better decisions in this specific scenario, and then they'll go out and pull in a bunch of data. They'll probably sort through that some way, and then they'll try and pick, okay, these drivers are, or these video clips are examples of the right behavior in this scenario. And so let's add those to the training set. And we're actually going to, when we add them, we're going to put like a 10x multiplier on the weight of those so that they pull the behavior of the system more towards those clips. And so they should be doing something very similar to what you're describing.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing your experience. I'm glad that you had a chance to do this and you've been following very closely. So you've been listening to all these other videos. We've done many shows of AI driver and edge case and all these guys showing the edge cases that it can actually solve. Then we had James Delma. You and I did that show. And then now you yourself got to experience it. So, you know what I mean? Like you yourself need to experience something before you can actually say something. So yeah, still has some critical issues, lots of things solved, but these critical issues matter. If they don't, then we're not there yet.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Hans.
And I think it looks like the architecture is the right architecture and that we're moving forward.
There you
It's just
go.
a matter of continuing to monitor that progress. And
There
so,
you go.
we'll keep everyone updated. Stay tuned in and we'll let you know when the next milestone has been reached. And like we said, I think the next one for right now is the milestone of expanding the user group. But then there's a number of milestones that are after that. And so, yeah, stay tuned for just watching the progress with us.
Thank you, Hans. Follow him on his YouTube channel at Hans C. Nelson. Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.